What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming.
Shut up and sit down.
Here we are, Midday Monologue Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. You may have noticed I've gotten rid of the intro and we jump right into things here. How about that, huh? So, as you may have heard from the top of the month or the beginning of the season, where I do my upcoming previews, today's episode is about something many board game collectors have in common: a shelf of shame. The shelf of shame. Now, this is usually not an actual shelf where they just put games on. It's usually incorporated within the regular shelves, like the ones you see behind me. It's more of a phrase, although I have heard of a few people that actually do put the games on an actual separate shelf. Now, if you're not a board gamer, what do I mean by shelf of shame? What I mean by that is a game that you have actively purchased, you've bought, and you've put on the shelf, and you haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. Maybe it's been sitting there for weeks or months, and you haven't had a chance to play it. That is what we mean when we talk about a shelf of shame. So why don't I tell you about 3 games that have been sitting on my shelf of shame for a while now, and we're going to put this to a poll and see which game you think should be taken off the shelf of shame and hit the table. All right? So now, the first game I was thinking about has been sitting here for a few years, and that's a Western game, and I do enjoy Western titles. And this is called Revolver. And Revolver is for 2 players. It's specifically a 2-player head-to-head game, and it should take you about 45 minutes to play. And the game's age is 12 and up. So this is by White Goblin Games. Now, this is a really fun title of a lawman versus an outlaw. The lawman and his posse of deputized men, and the outlaw with his group of bandits. And they're trying to make it across the territory to get to a train and escape. And it's the job of the lawman and his posse to make sure this doesn't happen. And this game captures the feel of the Old West manhunt and gunfight pretty damn good from what everyone says. And I would like to get the chance to get that to the table, to try it, to feel it, to experience it. Because like I said, I do enjoy the whole genre of the Wild West. And to get a very focused game adventure that is just on the manhunt, that's pretty cool. I haven't played a Western game that either is that or even has that really as an aspect. Some bounty hunting stuff, but it's not as drawn out as this is. So I've been really excited about this game. But it's a 2-player game. It's not the kind of game I can solo here one night. I'm going to have to get one of the 20-sided warriors that are also interested in trying this idea, and we're going to have to give it a shot. So this is dependent, right, on at least one other person, or I get 2 of them, and then I can just worry about filming them. That's another option, I think, for this. But yeah, Revolver. What do you think about that as possibly one of the next games to take off of my shelf of shame? Now, the other choice I have is a game that was gifted to me a few years ago, but in it itself, this is from the 80s. In fact, I don't think it is the first, but it is definitely one of the first times a board game company has attempted to do the concept of a dungeon crawl. And this title of The Mystic Wood was raved about back in the day. I never played it back then, but apparently everyone that has played it loves the hell out of this game. And it's played out with tiles. Playing tiles down is the different parts of the forest. And as you're playing the games, you're going to be drawing new tiles. So the forest tiles are always shifting around on you. And you never know exactly what each one is going to bring. Maybe a hermit, maybe a dragon, maybe a princess, maybe a healing pool. Maybe nothing, just a glade. And that randomization is something that I think in this early version, this early attempt at a board game dungeon crawl, really had a good idea of to help with replayability. But I'm not going to know that until I give the game a shot. Now, this game can be played one player. Well, I heard that there's a variant of it for one player. It's supposed to be between 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up. I think it takes about an hour, if I remember correctly, reading the back of the box. So yeah, I'm happy to see about a solo variant attempt, and if not, then I'm more than happy to see if one of the 20-sided warriors would be willing to sit down and try this old classic board game, because it looks fun as all hell. And my buddy Edmund that gave it to me was just clearing out space from his closet. He hasn't played the game in years, but he told me that him and his brothers used to really like that game. And we have a lot in common as far as hobbies and games go. So more reason for me to want to get that game to the table, Mystic Wood. Now, the final of these three is a Fantasy Flight game. And also it's not a solo game. There's no way you could even have a variant of a solo for this. And that title is Winter Tales. This is for 3 to, I think it's 7 players, and it should take about an hour and a half, 2 hours to play. And I think it was good for ages 14 and up, if I'm remembering correctly. Now, this game has had me interested in a long time, since it came out a few years back. Because this is an imagination game.
John, they're all imagination games.
John, they're all imagination games. This is an imagination game of storytelling, making up a story. Yeah, it's kind of like ad lib for board gamers. I guess you could put it that way. So the concept of this game is that you are playing these dark and sometimes twisted version of popular and well-known fairy tale characters, and they're all living in this fairy tale realm that's been locked in winter for ages. And the characters are all divided between like a winter court and a spring court, and they're in battle to end the winter's reign. Now, that sounds pretty and exciting, right? But the way you run this game, the way you play this game, is through a series of art cards that designers had their young children just scratch, draw up. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no explanation for any of the drawings. It's just some small child's scratch drawings. That's it. But you use these cards to do everything. And you do that by whenever you're going to want to do an action, whether it's to move somewhere or talk to someone or combat someone, you got to take one of these cards from your hand and interpret it. And that interpretation of the card is how the scene plays out, is what happens. I just think this is an amazing concept. Definitely this is the kind of game that any table needs to have the right players sitting around it. This isn't the kind of game, I don't think, for someone that's not into a little bit more of the role-playing aspect, because it seems pretty heavy with the whole concept of describing a vague art card to get what you want done across. So those are the 3 games. We have Revolver, we have the Mystic Wood, and we have Winter Tales. So go down in the comments section and let me know which game you think really deserves to be taken off the shelf and experienced down on the table. Thank you for joining me. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G for Two Gun Pixel Presents Legendary Gaming, and I am out of here.